Hi, Mark Harrison here, but I'd like you to call me MH3. I want to ask you a question. What do bricklayers, bots, and changemakers have in common? Let's talk for a minute about bricklayers. Around the world, there's this incredible shortage of bricklayers, quite frankly, of all trades, that is massively contributing to our housing crisis. Scottish Construction Now, in fact, says there are over 75,000 open roles for bricklayers, which is massively contributing to the inability of the UK to catch up with the affordable housing crisis and build the 300,000 to 400,000 units that are needed over the next few years. This is obviously a significant problem. In fact, you could call it a monumental problem, but then I'd be making a bad pun, because I now want to talk to you about a changemaker. And that changemaker is Salar al Khafaji. And he is the founder of Monumental. Monumental is actually building robotic bricklayers. So you think about what's needed for an individual to become a bricklayer. You're talking about a multi-year apprenticeship. You're talking about learning on the job. You're talking about having incredible patience in order to set up the site and level the grounds and make sure that you have all the tools that you need to get the job done. Really have an instinct for understanding how to make sure that bricks are level and squared at each corner. The right amount of buttering to do, which is, putting the mortar on the bricks. I mean, this is a craftsmanship or craftspersonship, I guess I should say, that takes time. To become a master bricklayer, it's not something you can just learn. You've actually got to earn it with your mind, with your fingers, with your muscles. And so Salar, who's a serial entrepreneur, took a look at this challenge. He said, well, could we use robots to replace bricklayers? Build robots that can have the same precision, build robots that can have a keen eye for accuracy, build robots that can potentially go across more rugged terrain or squeeze into places that, quite frankly, may not be safe for human bricklayers to go. Why am I bringing him up? And why am I talking about bricklayers? Well, really, it's because today I want to talk about changemakers. Changemakers are people that are near and dear to my heart. This was a term coined by Bill Drayton in the 2000s, and it was really focused around people that were all about social impact, about tackling injustices, about doing things with purpose. But today I want to hypothesize to you that being a changemaker should be seen as much more broad than just being somebody who's active in the social sector. In my opinion, I believe thoroughly that changemakers are entrepreneurs, they are innovators, they are people in government and private business and public business that are trying to make change. They're not just traditional entrepreneurs, they can be entrepreneurs, people that are in organizations looking to crack problems. And in fact, that's the first sign of a true changemaker, is somebody whose number one thing that they're trying to do is to crack a problem, something that gnaws at them when they're awake, gnaws at them when they're sleeping, gnaws at them when they're doing their current job. And then they go out and they look at multiple different types of solutions and ways to solve this problem. They experiment, they innovate, they trial, they collaborate. And eventually the best change makers not only find a solution, but they find a sustainable, long-term, lasting solution that's going to have the impact that they're looking for. Now I ask you, does that not sound like an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur to you? It does to me. So as you think about this notion, this construct of being a change maker, who comes to mind? And this is why I want to put this thesis forward, that in an era of 2025, as we look forward to the world, we need to find the change makers. We need to support change makers. We need to help drive this construct of change making so that we can make a positive impact in the world where purpose and societal impact and change are coupled with profit, are coupled with business results, are coupled with outcomes, not just outputs. So we can move forward as we need to and move forward in a way that, quite frankly, is sustainable. Now, I'm not suggesting that Drayton, who's the founder of Ashoka, which is the world's largest enterprise committed to change making, is remotely wrong. In fact, I think that his foundational construct and the methods or the sort of approach that he has to describing who is a change maker are bang on. I just want to apply this idea, this notion of change maker to a broader universe and sort of not in any way, shape, or form diminish the importance of the social impact side, of the purpose-driven side of being a change maker, but recognize that in this era, in these times, as we go forward, continuing to navigate, if we're lucky, not drown might be a better way to put it, these incredibly choppy waters that the world is throwing at us daily, is that change makers can be much broader and actually have to be much broader, because the things that they're doing are vitally important to the world and also vitally important to business. I don't really think that you can make change in the construct of just society and impact and expect that it isn't going to have some needs for business as well. So as you think about this notion of change makers, think about in your sector, in your industry, in your corner of the world, who are the change makers that you see that are around you every day. I have some change makers that are really close to me. People like Sam Leach, now Sam Dainty, who's one of my co-founders in an education charity we have called Park Street. So there's a change maker who is being entrepreneurial and innovative, creating new ways to provide skills development for young people, educational access, and reduce barriers, which is absolutely vital. But then you flip over to another person in my world, and I'll look at, say, Nora Griffiths, who's one of my partners in a consulting firm called Sidekick, who is building out a new way to help organizations and individuals build team strength, build growth in organizations, get everybody operationalized and on the same page. And those are people, those are examples that are just close to me. But in my sector and in my industry, I look at people like Zaileen Jan Mohammed, who's the first ever CEO of the Bay Area Host Committee, whose mission it is, just cough a little bit. Its mission is to bring world-class events to the Bay Area and San Francisco. And her change-making abilities, her entrepreneurial skill set, her background, having been on the brand side at pieces like Visa and at properties like MLS and LA 28 Olympics and marketing agencies, allows her to understand that this power of building community can be a great way to make change, that you can look at how do you not only attract great events, but create proper legacies for those events, not only attract partners together from all walks of life, government and corporate and community and sports and neighborhoods and you name it, but by doing this as a collective, build out that power. And so when I sit back and look at these global change makers, I look at folks like Jay Downton, who's the founder of the Nation Network, which is a podcasting social media sports platform, really started from his own fandom of being an Edmonton Oiler that is now part of a global collective of podcasts and sports content that are making change. The thing you'll find about all change makers goes back to what Drayton talked about, which is they've got this insatiable need to solve a problem that's in front of them. You know, the founder of Two Circles, Garrett Balch, and Two Circles is such a cool name because it came from him being an 800-meter runner, and you do 2 circles of the track. But when he looks at the world, he sees this incredible need to bring data into sports marketing, into sports marketing consulting, into sponsor consulting, to understand what consumers are actually doing. So I think there's something really interesting for me between this sort of framework, if you will, that Drayton's built for change makers, and another framework that I personally love, which is the hero's journey. Now, if you haven't read Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero's Journey, I'm going to give you a little bit of my own interpretation of it, but I'm also going to give you my own disclosure that I probably read 3/4 of the book because, Mr. Campbell, it is an incredible book. But yeah, I got a little lost in the minutiae and the weeds, and quite frankly, I'm one of those people who ends up liking to read background, but I always need that 1-page reference point. So that 1-pager for me, if I can draw it for you, is the Hero's Journey Cycle. And I'm going to apply it to Changemakers. So the typical hero's journey, and by the way, this is the construct, the framework, the approach, the methodology, because I'm saying the word construct too much, I want to actually come up with some other words, that underpins most fiction, most mythicism, most movies, scripts, you name it. So what happens in the hero's journey? Imagine the hero, in this case being yourself, the protagonist in the movie of your life, and you face an incredible problem, the biggest, most damaging problem that you've ever faced right up against you. And so when you think about this, you then decide, well, I'm going to either flight or fight, right? And if I fight, I'm going to go out and do battle against this problem. I'm probably going to find people to help me battle this problem. I'm going to look at all sorts of new techniques and approaches and ways that I can combat this problem one way or another. And ultimately, I'm going to win some battles, I'm going to lose some battles, I'm going to find some new conspirators and collaborators and people to join my community, if you will. I'm going to have my ups and downs. And hopefully, at some point, I'm going to win. You're going to win. You're going to succeed. You're going to get to this place where you have now figured out how to solve this incredible crunching problem that you've been facing. And the beautiful thing about the hero's journey, and this is the key part of the lesson, and this to me correlate directly to being a change maker, is that you know when you've reached success is not only do you understand how to solve the problem, but you also know how to share that wisdom with others. And that is actually what makes it sustainable. That's what creates the lasting impact. That is what provides you the opportunity to help other people that might be facing a similar problem and to get over it and to tackle it and to be able to face it head on. So while I haven't explicitly asked Mr. Campbell for permission to rebuild the hero's journey into the changemaker's journey, I'm going to share it out here with you, and hopefully you will give me permission to do so. But there's something else I want to talk about, and something that really is the most important part of this. And I want you to think about when you're walking past a construction site or a school or a library or a business or a ride share or a restaurant. Do you see change makers there? Do you see them and what they're doing, the problems they're solving? Because Drayton and his associates have a motto, and that is everyone's a change maker. Everyone is a change maker. When you look out your window of your house, your home, your apartment, when you go past in this passing car, when you look through your sunglasses at these different scenes I'm talking about, do you see change makers everywhere? More importantly, when you're looking in a mirror, when you're looking in a camera lens, when you're looking at a selfie, do you see a change maker in yourself? This, for me, is the most important question of our brief conversation today. When you think about that opportunity that might face you at work, that opportunity to seek out a new way of doing things, or that problem that you might be facing personally, or in your social life, or in your family life, or perhaps that opportunity at work is actually a problem, a challenge, a former mentor who now has turned against you because they are feeling like you are rising up in strength and power and rank and you're now a threat to them. Ever seen that happen? That opportunity or that problem because you've got a competitor in your sector who you were potentially underestimating and now realizing that they are eating your lunch and taking away your super fans and your best consumers. Ever seen that problem? That problem where you realize that perhaps whether it be new skills in AI or communications, you're suddenly feeling less equipped to advance your own career and you now feel like your job security might be in jeopardy. Or the problem where perhaps your organization has had too lofty of projections and you haven't accurately planned or forecast or resourced your cash needs, your cash allocations to get things done. In all those situations and more, many, many, many more, you are going to be called upon to be a change maker. You're going to be challenged to do things differently. You're going to be challenged to become an entrepreneur. You're going to be challenged to become a fighter. You're going to be challenged to become a leader. You're going to be challenged to become a community builder. And at that moment, that's the question I have for you. You see the problem. Can you imagine new solutions? Are you going to go out and take the initiative that needs to happen? Can you create lasting impact? Where is the change maker in you? I'm Mark Harrison. I prefer to be called MH3. I can't wait to keep this conversation going.